This is the Level Up Podcast. I'm Taylor Petrinovich.
And I'm Kelly Gilster of 618 Studios.
And we are on a mission to help filmmakers level up their businesses and their craft so they can make more and work less.
We want to help you confidently take your business from mainstream to luxury, and it all starts right here.
Hey friends, welcome to the Level Up Podcast. We're so excited for today's conversation with Charlie Hilbrant. I am joined by my co-host, Kelly Gilster.
Hi everyone, and hey Charlie, thanks so much for joining us. I know that we have a really in-depth conversation that we're going to have. We're going to get a little real this episode. I'm looking forward to our conversation that we've laid out. And how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to be here. I've sort of binged all of your episodes recently, so I feel like a fan now. Yeah, it's nice.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. So how's your year going so far? Have you started your season? What's kind of happening in your life?
No. So I'm in Dallas this weekend, which will be fun, and then in Napa next weekend, and then some other place the following. So it's been 5 months with nothing, and now we're hitting the road, which I'm really excited about.
It's like all or nothing sometimes.
It really is. It's like drinking from a fire hose.
For sure.
At the end of last season, I was like, I need time off. And then a couple weeks ago, I was like, I need to work right now.
Relatable.
So relatable. I feel like as entrepreneurs, it's so hard because you're either in like feast or famine a lot of the time. Yeah. And so you're coming off of this famine period, not just maybe because you're not working as much, but also because you're just ready for that connection and for the new season to start. And then all of a sudden you're feasting and on overdrive, and then it's just out of control. So it's
Completely.
Really hard to find that balance, which is basically the topic of our conversation, is work-life balance and how that looks as filmmakers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we get in too deep to the episode, just for somebody who is listening who may not know who you are, Charlie, can you just introduce yourself, tell the listeners a little bit about you, your business, and then I'm actually just searching through this form that I had you fill out to make sure I'm not missing anything. This is a real conversation, guys. So yeah, we would love to hear from you.
Well, I'm glad to be here again. Thanks for having me. I live in Chicago, but I do probably 70-ish% of my work out of the Chicago market. I'm a father of 2 boys and a husband to my wife, Christy, who, kind of a fun story that I don't know, I've just recently started telling it, but I met her on the train downtown. And so, yeah, I like to add that. It's a fun little conversation starter. Not that we are going to talk about my dating experiences, but yeah, that's how we met. And
how sweet.
We have a 12-year-old golden retriever who's coming over to say hi, Maverick.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that's me. Business-wise, I used to be Vince Vaughn's body double and stand-in, and a friend of my wife's was like, hey, I know you're in filmmaking. Can you video my wedding? And I was like, I'm way too cool to be a wedding videographer. Turns out I loved it, and I have not looked back. So that's been, it's been 13 years.
Is that real? Is that a real story?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
We should do the game where it's all right, see if Charlie's being serious.
We should.
But in that case, yeah, I am. I am.
3 truths and a lie.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I got started, and I've sort of experienced every iteration of the gear and the master classes and trying to get some foothold in the local market and establishing a brand, and then sort of letting that thing go because it's not really who I am. And now I'm on a different place that I'm fortunately has led me here to talk with you, but it's just there's been so much change over that period that I've been glad to call Chicago home, but I'm also loving new experiences, new creative partners, venues, planners, all that. So
amazing. Charlie, can I share how I like first discovered you? Which I think you're gonna like this story a lot.
Yeah.
So my friend and I are like avid TikTok sharers. We're always like passing back and forth TikToks, and because she knows that I'm a wedding videographer, she found your TikTok, the one in particular that went viral, about you discovering your true passion as a filmmaker. After partaking in
that 8-second video that I just like one-offed and didn't know I was going to wake up to 500,000 views.
Yes. Yeah. So she sent it to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? Like, I looked you up on Instagram, and I was like, man, okay, his work's actually really good. So I gave you a follow, and then full circle, Taylor scheduled this, and then I sent it to my friend. I was like, hey, guess what? The mushroom guy is going to be on our podcast. And she was like, no way. And she was so like cool. all fanning over it. So that was funny.
That is awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, it was interesting because I had this like, a lot of us have like 30 followers on TikTok. It's kind of not the thing that like I want my in-laws to be pulling up. But one day I was driving home from dropping my son at school, and I was like, this is kind of funny. Like, and so I said what I said on there, and I don't know, maybe we can link it, or people who know what I'm talking about will know. But I said, so actually this is relevant because it's part of my background, but I used to be a police officer and had an experience with my best friend in Big Bend National Park. Sorry, Park Department. So I had an experience with him, and it changed my life entirely, and I have not looked back. But I sort of realized like this like tough shelled, like, this Charlie I had built was just so like fabricated that I knew then that my work was to like honor that a little bit, but also just sort of let it go and be who I really am, which is what's sitting in front of you for the most part.
That's cool.
Yeah,
we're always bettering ourselves. We're always looking for the best versions of ourselves. And, when you yourself are kind of going through, I don't want to say a rebrand yourself, but sort of like you're sort of like figuring out who you are. And then that flows into your professional work too. So like you were kind of saying earlier, your business is in a different place than it was just a year ago. So do you kind of want to walk us through that journey, what that looked like for you?
Yeah, we can. Oh man. So as you say that, what comes up in my body is like to constrict and to protect that what happened, because I don't know, I've sort of like stayed away from the big forums and the places where there's discussion, because I just haven't felt safe to show up fully me, and this is a place where I'm going to, but I just want to acknowledge that it's a little scary. So a year ago, I got a phone call in the middle of the night that my sister was being taken to the hospital, and my mom said that, she's going to Highland Park, which is where I used to be a police officer. So right away and she was in Florida, she wasn't even in town. So right away I called my old boss and I said, hey, heads up, I'm gonna break the sound barrier driving there. Tell everyone on duty to ignore me. So I drove like to the rev limiter of my car to go see her, but she had unfortunately passed away. And the details aren't important, but she was a healthy, early 30s. And again, just to protect her privacy. The details just that she was gone. I'm noticing myself like trying to blow past it. So everything in that moment just stopped. And so all my family was out of town. So I just, some of my old colleagues came because they were like working, they were on duty, and that was really comforting in that time. But I couldn't believe it was real. So it was this like complete fog of no, this is the stuff that you like hear about, you read about, but you don't, like the body just gets confused. My body got confused. It was like, oh no, you're gonna wake up, this is gonna be But so that's what happened a year ago, and then the next morning, I woke up to like just checking an email from somebody being like, "Hey, it's been 8 weeks. Where's our wedding video?"
Oh.
And right then I realized, like, not only, thanks for letting me share that. It's like I'm pulling myself through it. Not only am I gonna grieve the loss of my sister Kate, I'm also gonna have to like rework every expectation from everybody that I had established, because I didn't even know in that moment, I didn't know how deep it was gonna go. Like I knew things were gonna change, but I like physically, emotionally, creatively, everything just, I don't want to say it stopped, but it just changed. And so I'm just kind of now coming out of that like self-protective, like whatever I did to like, I keep doing this to just like batten down my own hatches and to just keep going, because I have a family. I still had weddings on the books. I still had my backlog at that point was like, I had like 10 that I had to deliver, and none of it got done. Like I didn't look at my computer. I couldn't go and like, it was funny. I tried once and I noticed that all of my music was just like, it was like a funeral, because I was, you know, as what we do is we're sort of mirrors. So we go, and I think our internal state matters when we're going and editing. We're being a vehicle for like that event to come through, and it's got to stop through all the feeling channels in us and then make its way into the editor. So I just sort of threw my hands up and said, well, if my body's asking me not to exert any creative energy and just survive, that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, I'm sort of coming out of that fog state. And a lot has changed. And some for the better, honestly. Some for the better. Relationships have gotten more real, it feels like. I don't spend time in spaces where I don't want to, if that makes sense. Like I've never really been a networking person, like go and shake hands. Well, I take that back. I can do it. I can do like the mask and the, I call it cocktail hour face. But now I just can't do it. It's not that I don't want to, I physically can't do it. So it seems like things are just getting more, I'm finding out more about who I am through this really painful process. And thank you for letting me share it. That's been the thing that has colored everything, every day. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. And we are very sorry for your loss. It's never easy to lose somebody, but especially a sibling. I know I lost my dad actually when I was 20, and it's kind of similar. We were talking before we hit record, but today we're kind of talking about how there's no such thing as work-life balance, and work bleeds into life and life bleeds into work, and it's just this like jumbly thing that we all just kind of have to navigate through. And I feel like it's a process with no destination, if that makes sense. Like we're just kind of like always trying to move forward. And this conversation, we're getting really real because we can talk about, you know, fun things like branding all day, but kind of like peeling back the layers to show that like we are all human, and everything's not all rainbows and butterflies all the time, and life is real. And for somebody who is struggling, I mean, life happens to all of us. So just know that if you're listening, you're definitely not alone. We're walking through some of these things with you guys. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. So lost my train of thought.
I can pick up.
I mean, I think, you know, Taylor and I, we always want to be like the cheerleaders. I think we always say like, we're cheering for you, we're cheering for you. And I hope that people listening know that like, yes, we're cheering for your wins, but as Taylor said, if you're walking through kind of a valley right now, just know that like there's a community there that can still like lift you up in those losses. So yeah, like this is very real life on this episode today. And thanks for sharing that, Charlie. And I'm so sorry for your loss. Like, losing your sister obviously shook you to your core, and understandably. I actually, at our last wedding in Aspen, we were out there for Monday through Sunday filming all the things. And on the morning of the wedding, it was actually also Paul's birthday that day. His mom called in to wish him a happy birthday. And I actually was the one that answered first. And I was like, oh, hey, Robin, were you calling to wish Paul a happy birthday? And she's like, yeah. And also, like, Paul's cousin died last night unexpectedly. And Paul comes out, and he's definitely not the person that likes attention and all this stuff. So he didn't know, like, his mom had just told me. And I'm like, oh, it's your mom. So he's like, I don't want to talk to her. I don't want to talk to her. Like, he knows it's like a birthday thing. They're going to sing to him on the phone. He doesn't want it. And I'm like, hey, and I just like got like really serious. And I'm like, it's actually some like really sad news. And he like takes the phone, and she tells him the news. And I mean, it's hours before we're going to start shooting. Like, and I think all of us know that a wedding is physically draining, but even more so, it's emotionally draining. We're constantly reading rooms. We're constantly, on it, right? We're constantly on. I think all of us, like, when you sit down to dinner finally and you just want to like sit in a room quiet and like recharge for a sec before you have to go back out and probably film some speeches or some open dancing. And I feel so bad for him, but he was just in this fog the first whole half of the day. And that's just real. It's just real. Like, you can't call out sick on that. You have to like put your best foot forward and put on a strong front. And it's hard. So we have a very unique job in that sense. But I think it's good to like really figure out what's most important in our businesses. And aside from also loss, I know that a lot of things changed in my life when I had kids. I remember having our son and up one night really late, 3 a.m. for a feeding. And I think I checked my phone also and had a couple of emails that were like a little bit like, where's this? What's going on here? And I'm just like, none of this matters right now. Like, it just doesn't matter. Like, not that we don't care about our clients, not that we don't care about our businesses, but like, I remember starting my business, like that was my whole identity. And all of a sudden I had another identity. And so it was very refreshing to realize that like we can set those boundaries. It puts things into perspective, honestly.
I think it's such an important conversation. And I think especially what I heard you say is like what got us to where we are won't get us forward. Like the wrapping our identity into the person that responds to an email in 13 seconds, or having a same day edit when we get home from the wedding. Like, I used to do that stuff all the time, and like it just doesn't work anymore. That's okay, but there's like things change, and specifically like as a parent, I think our responsibilities are different, like vastly different.
Dude, running a business where you're booking dates out like 6 to 12 months in advance while having kids is hard. Can we just like, can we talk about that for a minute? Like, how many soccer games or dance recitals have we missed? Because it's like, I didn't know that there was going to be one on that Saturday. How could I know? It's like gut-wrenchingly difficult, honestly.
And you can't say no to the wedding.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
And a lot of us you're going to be gone for like 5 days. Mm-hmm. So it's unique in that way.
And then birthdays. So we actually met in person at Engage in December, Charlie, which was so fun. But even just like going to something like that was so hard. It was my daughter's first birthday, like the day after like Engage ended. And it's like making that decision, like, is it worth it to go to something that's going to like potentially further my career, but like, you know what I mean? Miss, like, what if the flight's delayed or like things get crazy? I flew Southwest, and we all know what has been happening with that airline. It's like such a mess. And then I had an editorial in March, and it was the same thing. Like, I literally had to like fly home the morning of she turned 5, my 5-year-old, her birthday. And it's like, there's no rule book and there's no like right and wrong decisions here, and it's just like doing the best that you can, honestly. And you can't really have it all, but you can try, I guess.
Yeah, I try all the time. I for sure try. I there's this running fear of like this impending what's the word, like my impending brand irrelevance, and I'm just, it's like this clock that's ticking. I'm actually probably past it, to be honest with you. But like, if I don't take that job, if I don't push myself, if I don't, then I'm gonna like lose some like narrative. I'm gonna lose out, or I'm not gonna, if I miss this engage next week, all those relationships are gonna fall apart, and people are gonna be like, why didn't he show up? You must, like all of that is it's such a hard thing to sit with, because here we are supporting our families that we love, and also to support our families who we love, we have to go and do this thing that requires you to show up fully all the time and give everything, because everybody else is giving absolutely everything. So it can be sort of a tough cycle to sit in.
Yeah, I'm still figuring it out, going from 0 kids to 1 kid to 2 kids, like, and then just dealing with like real life things, family dynamics, friend
Who's
dynamics.
watching the kids this weekend while we're at this wedding?
Dude, Taylor and I were just having a conversation about that right before we hopped on like grandparents, like having other responsibilities, throwing it on you last minute that they can't watch for the full 4 days. So now I'm over here trying to shift around things, and I don't know. How do we do it? It's
completely a full-time job.
Yeah.
Being a parent, and then, oh, by the way, you have to respond to this email nicely. Like, I got some so flack yesterday. I don't know. I posted something on my stories that I took off pretty quickly because I realized I shouldn't be taking up my anger on Facebook or Instagram. But some planner sent me sort of a little nasty gram, and I shared it, and I'd had it. I was like up to here, but I realized if I had been more balanced, if I hadn't done breakfast for our boys, like getting dressed, out the door to school, back home, a million emails. If I hadn't gotten to here before that email, I wouldn't have responded like I did. It's just I got to here, and I think you asked how do we do it. I think we just talk about it. I think we just get practice showing up and saying on a really popular podcast, hey, anybody else going through this stuff? Like, I think 100 times out of 100 you find out that a couple people in the room are like, yeah, you too? Oh, me too.
Yeah. Instagram like just paints such like a pretty picture. Like, of course it does. Like, it's marketing. Like, not everyone needs to see the messy, but it's like so refreshing and almost like validating to like know that everyone else has messy happening behind the scenes that they're not sharing either. And that's why like having friendships is so important. Having relationships, like ones where you can actually like text each other or send voice memos, or my new favorite thing is Marco Poloing,
Oh, I love Marco Polo.
Oh, great. I'll have to find you.
Yeah, please.
I love to like blabber for 30 minutes at a time, so buckle up.
My Marco Polo friend and I say that's kind of like journaling.
Yeah, kind of going back to like the email, early on in our business, I felt like I did have those same experiences where I responded back really quickly without like taking a second to like breathe or respond in a time that was not so emotionally driven. And I remember like looking back on some emails that I had written like a couple days later being like, ooh, I probably should have waited a bit. And just realizing like whatever it is, so if someone else is kind of struggling with that too, just kind of look at like, what is it that resets you? Is it, I don't know, is it maybe just like sitting and watching a show? Is it going for a walk? Is it doing a workout? Is it meditating? Is it whatever it is? It's okay to let those emails breathe for like 24 hours, especially too, taking from the client's perspective too. When they kind of send that email that is probably going to get you emotionally stirred, they probably also sent it in an emotional state. So you probably want to let them kind of like calm their emotions too before you get to respond. So it's not like this like stacking of emotions where it can escalate really quickly. So as the professional, kind of de-escalating the situation and bringing it back down to like a common ground, everything's okay, we're gonna get through this. In perspective, it doesn't really like mean all that much. Typically, it's not that big of a deal. So that's just something that I had to learn along the way.
I am still learning that lesson very much, because for so many years, well, almost 4 decades, I have like stifled my needs or feelings as like a people pleaser or like the yes man. And now I'm sort of not doing that. And part of that work is like saying the thing, saying how I feel, not like tamping it down. So I'm learning that balance of like being fully heart forward honest, but also like you said, carrying the moment as a professional. Everything's okay. We're going to make it through this. Whatever we were afraid of that caused that little, we're going to do it together. But it does not happen. I'll tell you, if I get an email like that, the first hour, no way. I have to go outside. Whatever I'm thinking of saying, that's V1, scrap it. We got to go to V2, 3, 4, probably 5 before it's like, because I think now more than ever, like screenshots, something that I want to say and feel really justified in saying can be sent to, not just to that planner. Let's assume it's a client and they're asking for where their video is. And I respond like some snotty thing. Just imagine, whatever. We all have our own versions of that. Not only that wedding's planner, but the entire planning community is going to know. Because they all have little forums and group chats. And I'll tell you, like, I'm not a fan favorite in Chicago right now. No, like, I'm not. And I know why. So everything is recorded, documented, screenshot. And so just that's something to keep in mind when, and I'm saying this really, I'm speaking to myself here, just breathe on it. If you come back in 12 hours and you're like, still, this is what it needs, then you gotta go with your instinct. But, whoo, baby.
I have 2 thoughts there. Like, number one, I think we can all use that as like a general practice, just like in life, like whether it be with our spouse or parents, if there's like interesting dynamics happening there, like, letting things breathe. And I like what you said, like scrap V1, like let's move on and like re-script out what we're going to say a few times. I think that's like such great advice. But Kelly and I also really like to talk about something that we have a kind of a really strong opinion on, which is like, sometimes like Instagram stories, like you said, like you had deleted one that you had done, but I think like sometimes people like get a little share happy on Instagram stories about things that like we're just kind of like scratching our heads about when it comes to like their business, whether it be like complaining about like a wedding that they have, or like just like kind of like overall like negativity about like our job. I like an example, maybe even like showing like, I don't know, like blisters on your feet from your shoes that you chose to wear at a wedding. Like, that's not a real example, but like, you know what I mean? But it's like, I don't know. I think that like it feels natural, like in the moment when you feel like frustrated and you want like other people to like join in that frustration with you to get like validation. But like, we're like, just don't post in the moment. Like, we're big advocates of like, take all the behind the scenes pictures you want, but like post them tomorrow. Like,
when you have the context tomorrow.
Yes.
You have the whole picture.
Breathe. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like a bottle of wine.
There's got to be, just aerate. Throw a little in like the decanter. Let the moment decant. That's a good way. Let it decant.
That's our new phrase. Let it decant.
Let it decant. It'll all be better once it, I don't know. There's a line there because there's this narrative of show up, be authentic, be truly you. And then there's this, like I show up and I'm like this curmudgeon-y Scrooge who's like, this, nah. What's the, what I'm trying to get rid of is that voice that's like saying not to be how I am. So that's what happened yesterday. I was like, all right, well, this is how I am. So here, I want people to see that. And one of my close friends was just like, hey, are you okay? You need a minute? You don't want a hug? And I was like, no, I'm fine. I didn't ask for your feedback, is what I said. That's what I said to her. And then like an hour later, I was like, hey, I'm really sorry. I needed a hug, and I needed a minute.
For me, it's like,
decanted.
Do you need to eat? Like for me, when I'm hungry, it's probably lunchtime.
Hungry? Why wait?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
I think that's why it's like, Taylor, going back to it too, like that's why it's, I mean, okay, social media, it's so inauthentic 90% of the time, right? So I think for me, like when it comes to like sharing, like, and not airing my dirty laundry, but like in a way, like trying to remain as positive, because it's kind of like I said, the marketing tool anyways. And so that's why, Taylor, going back to like having those friends, having a community, I actually had a running buddy for a long time, probably like 4 to 7 of business. Every Monday we would go for like a 4-mile run, and we would just talk about all of our frustrations from that wedding that we had shot that previous weekend. And we aired it all out to each other. It was a safe place to just run and get it out, and then talk and get it all out. And it was like such a great, looking back, I'm like, I wish I had time for that now. That was also obviously before kids. And I should make more time to do it again. But that was kind of a very healing thing now that I look back on it. I think that we maybe just did it out of like having the time and being friends, but it really was kind of a therapy session. So that's also something to consider if you're, wanting to, you need to let it out. Like, our jobs are stressful. Like, having to work in these live events, it can be stressful. Working with lots of different personalities, you having your own struggles you're working on in your personal life, it's a lot. So,
and then still wanting to be referred afterward, like still wanting to leave with a positive note. Like, the whole thing is a trip. I'll tell you what, my deal to anybody hearing this is, if you, instead of going and if you want to decant and DM me, I will sit with you and we can decant together. That's my offer. I don't have a LUT or a class to sell, but if you want to decant with me, I'll do it, and then I'll decant. I'll tell you all my stuff. Because in the moment, I'm like, there's a book called like a happy customer tells 3 people, an angry one tells 3,000. I don't know I forget what the name of it was. But that idea that like, if you say something controversial enough, like, the pitchforks are out now. They just are out. It's terrifying. So it's something I might think of, like, I don't know, maybe I complain about, like, I don't know. Sometimes I complain about like audio text because they don't like giving me like the feed, whatever. If the wrong audio text sees that and then posts it somewhere, and then someone finds it offensive enough, my phone will not ring again. And that is just so scary. So I think this is important to just like, I'm not saying just share the glitter and sunshine, but like, we should make like a mantra. Like, does this need to decant? That's a good one. Should I decant this? I'm going to take that advice.
I think that's
this week.
it.
I'm going to take that advice. Yeah, I'm going to take that advice. I have like a bunch of edits I need to deliver this week, and I'm waiting for those emails being like, just checking in. So I'm going to decant.
Okay, so for Charlie's offer, he will be your decanting accountability buddy. Charlie, where can listeners find you? Where can they see your work? Where can they decant with you?
Instagram is the best place, but then also you would probably within the first hangout get my cell phone, because I'd love to FaceTime anybody that needs anything. So it's just Charlie_Hilbrant and on Instagram, and don't go look for my TikTok, because that is not on brand professional like we've been talking about. And that's it. I welcome anybody who's in our sphere, whether they're about to shoot their first wedding or they've done it for 15 years. So however people are, if they just need a buddy, I'm here.
Thank you for joining us in this conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us reach more filmmakers just like you by taking a screenshot and sharing it on social media. Don't forget to tag us at The Level Up Co.
And join us again next week, same time, same place, as we continue to level up the industry together.